Hello guys, welcome back to my After Effects tutorial channel. This is Randy from Ran's Graphics, and before we will start, check on my merch. There's a lot of exciting designs out there that you might want. In that way, if you will buy, you can support my channel, okay? So without any further ado, let's start with our tutorial. Let me start by creating a new composition and name it placeholder 1. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second and 10 seconds duration. Click OK. Then go to your assets folder, open it up, open this images folder, frames, expand it and drop this frame 2 into the timeline. So now we can see the frame here. Highlight this placeholder 1, press my keyboard Ctrl D to duplicate it, then double click it to open it up. Go back to the placeholder 1, go to horizontal images, drop these images down into the timeline. Press S on your keyboard for the scale. I will just scale this to 27, but it's up to you guys how you will scale it according to your preferences, okay? I will just drag it down a bit like that. Then go to placeholder 2, open it up and drop down this image 2 into the timeline. Press S on your keyboard for the scale it down. I will just type 32. Then drag it up. Now highlight this placeholder 2. Press your keyboard Ctrl D to duplicate it. Double click placeholder 3 to open it up. Then highlight these two layers and delete it. Then go to the frames folder and drop down this frame 1 into the timeline. Highlight the placeholder 3, Ctrl D on the keyboard to duplicate it 6 times. Highlight the placeholder 4 to 9 and double click it to open it up. Now go back to the placeholder 3 and drop down this image 3 to the timeline. Press S on your keyboard for the scale, just scale it down. I will just speed it up guys so that you will not wait for long, okay? Now go to composition, create a new composition, name it title. I will change the width here to 1000 and the height is 200. The frame rate is 30 and the duration is 10 seconds. Click OK. Zoom it in. Then grab the text tool and type elegant 3D space slideshow. I will use aileron font. I want to use this thin. Then change the size of the font to 72. Type elegant 3D space slideshow. Now make sure that this one is center text, then align it at the center. I will highlight this slideshow at the bottom. Change this to 100. I want it bold. Then I want the lead change to 91. Go back to the align and align it horizontally and vertically. Go to composition, create a new composition. I will name it scene 1. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, 10 seconds duration. Click OK. I will highlight this title, drop it down into the timeline. Enable the 3D layer. Zoom it out. Press P on your keyboard for the position and Shift S for the scale. I will change the Z position here to negative 2000. The scale, I will change this to 50%. Highlight this title, go to Effects and Preset, go to Generate, Fill. I just want to choose this color. Disable the visibility of the title and go back to Project Panel. Highlight the placeholder 1 to 8. Drop it down into the timeline. Enable the 3D layers. Highlight this placeholder 1, place it just behind the placeholder 4. First, disable the visibility of these placeholders so we can work on this image, okay? Now press P on my keyboard for the position. Shift S for the scale and Shift R for the rotation. I will not change the position. All I have to do is to change the scale to 32%. And the rotation, I will move my playhead forward to 3 seconds. Create a keyframe by hitting the stopwatch on the Z rotation. Move forward my playhead to 6 seconds and 15 frames. Change the Z rotation to 4. There you go. Close it. I will enable this layer on the placeholder 5 so I can work on it. Drag it here. Press P on your keyboard for the position and Shift S for the scale, Shift R for the rotation. Now I will change the Z position 1500. Change the scale to 30%. Change the Z rotation a bit, like that. Close it. Enable the visibility of the placeholder 6. Press P on your keyboard for the position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. Change the Z position to 2000. Scale here probably 25. Rotate it a bit. And drag it here. Close it. Enable the visibility of the placeholder 7. Highlight it. Press P on your keyboard for the position. Shift S for the scale and Shift R for the rotation. Then move your image on this side. Probably here. Then change the position probably 1700. The scale, I will change this to probably 35. Then drag it just at the back of the main focus we have. Change the Z rotation a bit, like that. Then close it. Enable the visibility of this placeholder 8. Highlight it. Press P on your keyboard for the position. Shift S for the scale. Shift R for the rotation. Drag your image on this side. Change the Z position here to probably 2000. Scale, change this to 30. Press R for the rotation. I'll just rotate it a bit like this. And this one is too small. Just change the scale. Probably again 30. Then I will highlight it. Change the color code to probably dark green. Then I will change the color code on our main focus image to cyan. The placeholder 2 to 4, I will change the color code here to maybe orange. Enable the visibility of this image first. Highlight it, drag it down. Press P on my keyboard for the position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. I'll just change the Z position to negative 1000. Change the scale to maybe 50%. Then I will rotate it a bit like that. Enable the visibility of this placeholder 3. Then move it on this side. Press P for the position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. I will rotate it a bit like that. Then the position, I will change this to negative 500. And I will not change the scale on it. All I have to do is to close it. Enable the visibility on the placeholder 2. Then move it up a bit. Press P on your keyboard for the position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. I'll change the position here to negative 1500. And probably change the scale here to 80%. Then move it down. I'll just change this to 60% because it's too big. Enable my title composition. Then make sure that your playhead is at the 1 second duration. Then go to layer, create a null object. Drag it up and enable the 3D layer. Highlight all these compositions below, parent it to the null object 1. Then highlight null object 1, press P on your keyboard for the position and Shift R for the rotation. Then make sure that your playhead is at the 1 second duration. Create a keyframe on the position, then move backwards your playhead to the beginning of your timeline. Drag it up. Highlight both of these keyframes. Press F9 to ease it. Open Graph Editor. Highlight this corner. Drag it on the right side. Then press your keyboard page down 5 times to move your playhead forward 5 frames. Create a keyframe by hitting this tiny diamond. Move forward your playhead to the 3 seconds duration. Move forward your images. I'll just move this down a bit. Then close it. Highlight this placeholder 5 to 8. Go to Effects and Preset and add Blur and Sharpen, Fastbox Blur. Change the iteration to 1, then the blur radius, change this to 30, and I will check the repeat edge pixels. Highlight the placeholder 2 to 4, go to Effects and add Blur and Sharpen, Fastbox Blur. Again, change the iteration to 1 and blur radius 30. Press U on your keyboard to see the keyframes on the null object. As you can see, move your playhead forward to 6 seconds and 15 frames. Change the amount on the Z position, like that. Then press your keyboard page down 5 times to move your playhead forward 5 frames. Then hit this tiny diamond to create a keyframe. Create a keyframe on the rotation. Move forward your playhead to 8 seconds. Then I will just type here -205 to drag out my images out of the canvas. Then I will change the amount on the Y rotation to -59. Okay. Close this one. Now go to composition, create a new composition. Name it Scene 2. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, 10 seconds duration. Click OK. I will highlight this placeholder 2 to placeholder 9 and drag it down into the timeline. Enable the 3D layers. Highlight this placeholder 2, change the color code here to cyan. Highlight the placeholder 3 to placeholder 9 and change the color code here to fuchsia. Now highlight this placeholder 2, press S on your keyboard for the scale, change the scale here to 50%. Disable the visibility of these placeholders. I will work first on this placeholder number 3. Press P on your keyboard for the position, press Shift S on your keyboard for the scale, press Shift R for the rotation. Then drag the image up like this. Then I will change the Z position, probably 1800. Then the scale, I want it 35. Move this image like this and rotate it a bit like that. Now I will close this one and enable the visibility of this placeholder 4. Highlight it, drag it to where I want. Press P on your keyboard for the position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. Change the Z position here to 1500. Change the scale here to 35. Then drag this image on the other side right here. Close it. Enable the visibility of the placeholder 5. Highlight it. Press P on your keyboard for position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. Then drag this image on the other side right here. Change the Z position to 1500. Then I will change the scale to 35 and drag it. like that. I will not rotate it. So all I have to do is to enable the visibility of the placeholder number 6. Press P on your keyboard for position, Shift S for the scale, and Shift R for the rotation. Then I will drag this image down and change the Z position here to probably 1400 and change the scale here to probably 40. Then I will drag it up, rotate it a bit, and move it on this side. Enable the visibility of the placeholder number 7. Highlight it, press P on your keyboard for position, Shift S for the scale, Shift R for the rotation. Then drag this image down for now. Then change the Z position to 1200. Then the scale, change this to 40. Drag it again like that. Then I will not change the rotation amount. Now enable the placeholder number 8. Highlight it, press P on your keyboard for the position, press S for the scale, and press R for the rotation. Drag it down. Then change the Z position to 1600. Scale, change this to 35. Then drag it like this. Close it and enable the placeholder 9. Highlight it, press P for the position, and Shift S for the scale, Shift R for the rotation. Then drag it down. Then change the Z position to 1600. The scale, I will change this to 35. Then drag it up, rotate it a bit. Close it. Highlight the placeholder 3 to 9. Go to Effects and Preset. Go to Blur and Sharpen. Fastbox Blur. Change the iteration here to 1 and the blur radius is 30. Then check the repeat edge pixels. Now go to Layer, create a new null object. Make sure that the null object is a 3D layer. Highlight all this placeholder below, parent it to the null object. Then highlight the null object, press P on your keyboard for the position, and Shift R for the rotation. Make sure that your playhead is at the first second. Create a keyframe on the position and on the Y rotation. Then move your playhead back to the beginning of the timeline. Change the Y rotation to -59. Change the position on the Y-axis to 2224. Highlight all these keyframes. Press F9 to ease it. Open Graph Editor. Highlight this corner. Drag it on the right side. Then I will highlight this placeholder 2. Press R on my keyboard for the rotation. Move forward my playhead to about 3 seconds. Create a keyframe by hitting this stopwatch on the Y rotation. And move your playhead to 6 seconds and 15 frames. Change the amount of rotation to 4. Then I will go back to the first keyframe. I will change this to -4. Move back my playhead to the first second duration. Press my keyboard page down 5 times to move forward my playhead to 5 frames. Create a keyframe by hitting this tiny diamond on the position. Forward my playhead to the 6 seconds and 15 frames. I will change the Z position closer to the camera, like this. Then again, I will press page down 5 times to move forward my playhead 5 frames. Then create a keyframe by hitting this tiny diamond on the position. I will also hit the tiny diamond on the rotation. Forward my playhead to the 8 seconds duration. Change the Y rotation to 59. Y-axis on the position, I will move it up. So let's see. Now go to composition, create a new composition. I will name it main. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, and I will change the duration here to 20 seconds. Then click OK. Go to my project panel and drop down this scene 2 into the timeline and also the scene 1. Then I will move forward my scene 2 to the 8 seconds duration. So as you can see, it's too late. You can move back the scene 2 composition if you don't want to have a gap in your transition. I'll just change the resolution here to half. It might be better. So let's preview this. Now I'm gonna go back to my project panel, go to assets, open the sound effects, and I will choose this swoosh, drop it down into the timeline. Then move forward my swoosh flash to the scene 2 folder. Let's try to preview this. Move it this way, grab this swoosh, drop it down into the timeline, play it. Preview this again. Reverb swoosh, drop it down into the timeline. There you go. Then open the footage, drop down this slightly into the timeline. Change the blending mode here to add. Press T on your keyboard for opacity. Change the amount of the opacity to 15%. Then go to layer, create a new solid, name it BG. Click OK. Drag it down to the bottom, go to effects and preset, go to generate gradient ramp. Change the linear ramp to radial ramp. I will just change the end color here, probably this color. So let's preview this, let's see. Nice. So now guys, I'm gonna go to composition and create a new composition. I will name it final. 1920 by 1080p, 30 frames per second, 20 seconds duration. Click OK. Then go to my project panel and drop down this main into the timeline. Then preview this. So guys, our tutorial has been done and I hope that you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment in my channel if you have any questions. And also check on my mercs. There's a lot of exciting designs on it that you may want to buy in order to support my channel. And my thoughts for today guys, that if you want to learn more, don't forget to never retreat, never surrender, okay? So thank you guys for watching and see you next time. God bless.